Hi again from my kitchen. I made a little video uh, about aphasia, and I said it was going to be kind of a one-off in my kitchen, but I actually found that I liked it. I love my kitchen. I love being in the kitchen, and something about standing and talking actually helps me think. So I thought, oh, I'll do one more in my kitchen and see how it goes. Another segment that I did a week or two ago was about resiliency and personal resiliency. And I talked a little bit about kind of the way that I view resilience, which is similar to a lot of people, but also a little different in terms of not focusing on external things like other people and self-esteem. But after that video, I thought there's actually a couple of things that were really formative for me personally, and why not share them? You know, because if it was useful for me, and maybe useful for other people. So I have kind of six little points that have really, really been influential in my own, I guess, managing relationships and managing expectations, and just, I guess, being resilient. So I just want to offer them. Okay. So the first one was when I was a teenager, I attended Sunday school with a boyfriend, and his Sunday school teacher was this lovely woman, and I have no idea what the lesson was about, but I remember being very struck when she said, "Nobody ever promised that life would be easy. They only said it would be worth it." And that's always been huge for me, because I think that we do sometimes expect life to be easy. I think I can honestly say that I spent a lot of years waiting for things to get easier. There was always this like kind of sense of, well, when I arrive at, right? You know, when you're young, you think when you're a teenager. When you're a teenager, you think when you're in your 20s, when you get your license, when you get a job, when you get a car, when you get a boyfriend or husband, whatever. We always think that something will come along that will make life easier. But then when you settle into an acceptance that life isn't easy, and that's okay because it's worth the effort, then when it is not easy, it doesn't seem like a problem. It just seems like that's normal life. And I think that becomes even more important as we age, because we do face a lot more challenges, actually, not less. So that's been a really big one. Nobody ever promised life would be easy. They just said it would be worth it. Another very influential, which I think I mentioned in my initial resilience message, I had a professor in university who said, people are happy, horny, naked monkeys, which is really odd. And I wish I could remember who it was, because I'd love to credit him for this, because it has been so, so, so important in me managing my expectations of people. And I say that because kind of the way that played out for me was that we tend to have really high expectations of one another. A lot of the time, you know, there's a lot of like, when people do something that bothers us or upsets us, we think, well, why did they do that? If only they could have done it differently, blah, blah, blah. And the truth is, a lot of the time, we're not operating with that high level of consciousness about our behavior and our choice of words and our actions. We're just kind of just doing our best, you know, doing our thing and following our instincts. And sometimes our instincts are awesome and they live up to the expectations, but lots of times we're pretty simple in our needs and our impulses and our thought processes. Happy, horny, naked monkeys. So sometimes when people are disappointing, I come back to that. And it's not that you hold each other to a lesser expectation, but you forgive each other for being human. Kind of going along with that, I guess, those expectations of people. Early on in my relationship with my husband is French Canadian, and when we first met, his English wasn't strong and my French wasn't strong, so we had some interesting conversations and some hurdles to jump, and fairly early on we got in an argument, and we were driving. I'll never forget. I even remember the road we were on. We were driving and I got upset and I said, it's not even about what you said, it's the way you said it. And he said, but those are the only words I have. And at the time, what he really meant is that was the only vocabulary he had in English to try to say his thoughts. And, that was kind of a moment to stop and regroup and recognize the truth in what he was saying and just be forgiving and work our way through it. But that also really made me think about, in general, how often we criticize not the fact that the person is trying to get a certain message across, but the word choices they use or their tone of voice. And, that's all just interpretation and human behavior, and so few times do people actually mean to be hurtful, right? So maybe those are the only words they had in that moment, or maybe they just chose words different than you would have chosen, but that doesn't mean that they were wrong. And so just get over it, right? Just move on. So, yeah, so that's number 3. Number 4, if you are always looking for life to be fair, you will always feel like life is unjust. And we mistake fair and just. Life isn't fair. Stuff happens. And I really actually feel really frustrated by the expression that everything happens for a reason, because lots of things happen to wonderful people and there's no reason. But we can make meaning out of it, and we can always find something wonderful to help us grow and learn from our experiences, absolutely. But life is not fair. There's not always the same amount of cake for everybody. There's not always the same amount of money or resources or time. Some people need more than others. Some people want more than others. And it's just not possible for it to always work out perfectly. But if it's kind of like the same as expecting life to be easy, if you expect it to always be, then it's upsetting when it's not. And you feel like a victim. And it's the same with fair. If you can accept that life is not always fair, sometimes it's your turn and sometimes it's not, then you're going to be good. But if you're always looking for fair, you'll always feel that you're coming out on the short end. So stop looking for fair and just look for lovely and beautiful, because that's all there for sure, no matter what, no matter how big your piece of cake is. Okay, number 5. I read a book by Jean Vanier, who is a Canadian wonder, in my opinion. He's a philosopher. He's a word I can't say, theologian. Anyway, he's an author, founder of Large Communities. Anyway, I read his book because I was in love with the concept of large communities, and I wanted to live in a large community when I was younger. But when I read his book, I was really struck by a statement that he made, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically he said human beings will always look for a way to put ourselves above one another, and if we don't use religion to do that, we'll use some other way. Just a minute. Okay. so yeah, so we'll always find a way. And that was really formative for me for a couple of reasons. One is to understand that there's just a human drive to do that, and so, not to automatically assign so much negativity to that kind of behavior. That sometimes it's really subconscious, and it's kind of needs driven, and it's the outcome isn't great. We need to do better and not try to set ourselves above or apart from each other, but at the same time, we need to understand and be forgiving that that's just part of the human condition, and we're imperfect creatures, and the religion and money and government and whatever, they're all just tools, and they can be used well or they can be used poorly. So don't get angry at the tool. Still have respect for the utility of these things, but be forgiving and understanding of some of the behavior that comes with. So, yeah, just humans. And the other piece to that for me was to just really work hard to not succumb to that impulse and just be, on the same level with everybody I encounter, no matter their circumstances, or their background, or anything. Just, look at everybody as somebody to learn from and share with and connect to, rather than to set myself apart from. So that's been huge. I think that really, really has shaped who I am as a person. I hope that I have done well with not setting myself apart. Connection's definitely always a big focus for me. Okay, and then finally, number 6. I don't know how to explain this really well, but for me, the idea that life is amazing, and a gift, a beautiful, beautiful gift, and we need to really respect that gift and honor it and use it as best we can, and yet not take it quite so seriously. It's kind of an oxymoron, but I think about it like an anthill, like we are the ants. When you look at an ant colony, every ant in that colony has a purpose and a function, and it's this beautiful interconnected system. It's really amazing. If you don't know this about ants, take a few minutes and study ants. They're pretty cool. Make an ant colony and watch. It's amazing. Poke an anthill and watch what happens. They're amazing creatures. They're very resilient, and they're very cooperative, collaborative, and they work together. And human beings as a colony are very similar. And make no mistake about it, we are very, very important in our roles on the earth. But if something happens to an ant, the colony moves on. And they're still okay. So if something happens to us, people will move on, and that's okay. We want that. And for me, seeing it that way, it releases me from a lot of stress, a lot of sense of responsibility. I mean, you still want to do the best you can. You still want to honor that, but you don't want to feel that pressure all the time, And the other piece is, we worry a lot about what's going to happen. But, I mean, how many anthills have you kicked over in your life? How many children run around stomping on anthills and wiping them out? And everything is still okay. And, those colonies either rebuild or they don't, but there's always more. And that is just this really simplistic kind of articulation or illustration of life, right? So stuff happens, and it's not always great for us, but everything still is right. No matter what happens, everything that happens is right. And that's kind of profound and yet really simple. And that brings me a lot of peace. So I'm just sharing these ideas, these concepts, these things other people have shared with me, these observations as food for thought, little tidbits of what may help you or other people in kind of building a foundation for, or maybe building up your foundation of resilience. Okay, see you again.